This season, we're taking a home that was outdated and barely functional and turning it into our client's dream home. The issue is, if you notice, the gap here between the addition and the original house is fairly tight. As you come up, it gets wider and wider. All right, you're gonna see these professional drywall guys, they are fast. They're gonna move through and cut and all this kind of stuff, but you know, the do-it-yourselfer, you're not typically gonna take the tape measure, put your knife on and follow it and cut it. It's just not, it's something you get from practice.
Smile. You woke up in Texas, one of the fastest growing states in the country. Meet Jim Dutton.
Tools make the job. It ain't a good day till we tear something up.
Contractor and syndicated radio show host.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Along with the Texas Home Improvement team.
Oh, look how beautiful it is.
Here to show you how to get the job done right and protect you from out-of-state bootleg contractors.
And that's what you get when you hire a bootleg contractor.
This is Texas Home Improvement.
All right, we're gonna have to address a little bit of foundation movement here. This is the old office, which is now gonna be half utility room and half bar room, we'll call it. And the issue is, if you notice, the gap here between the addition and the original house is fairly tight. As you come up, it gets wider and wider. That's because that side of the addition went down. We're underpinning it, we're gonna tighten it up. We're not gonna do a lot of lift because prior to us ever getting here, there was floor leveler put down in order to make the room semi-flat to begin with. So we're very limited on what we can move, but we need to stabilize it so that when we sheetrock and put our floors across this joint, we don't have issues with everything opening up later. And really that's what we're doing. When you're dealing with foundation problems, you know, a lot of times people think there's only one type of repair method that's gonna get the job done. I believe in using all of them, and the main reason I do, different soils require different techniques to support the structure. So on this particular home, we're using a precast concrete pile. You've got steel piles, you've got helicals, drilled piers. All of them have a purpose depending on the soils that you're dealing with. Once a pile is driven in the ground, you've got a cylinder sticking up out of the bottom of the hole. So we set a pile cap on top of it. Then we put a cylinder on one side, hand jack on the other so we can tighten everything up. Because these things are spring loaded. In other words, as it's being driven, it's pulling the soil down, and if you just let off of it, it'll spring up and actually lift the pile a little bit out of the ground, which is destined to failure because eventually it'll get that spring back in it. So you've got to keep tension on it the whole time. Then, once we put the tension, we shim it off with just steel shims. Again, keeping the shims to the middle so it's above our pile underneath. All the jacks are set. You do your lift. Once you've lifted it and leveled the house out, you take your jacks, set another cylinder on top, steel shims on it, and you've got the house secured now where you don't have to worry about it. And there's no question, foundation repair is a messy job. I mean, you got piles of dirt around the house or structure that you're working on, but it all cleans up when it's done, and you don't have to worry about the house moving again as long as your contractor went deep enough. The key factor is how deep you go. The deeper, the better. Well, Glenn, we're standing here in the pantry, what used to be part of the living room, and I see we're changing out some ducts and making it a little bit more accountable for the size rooms we have now versus what we had before.
Yes, sir. Like you were saying, this used to be the dining room for the home, and they put a wall in here, and they're turning this into the pantry and that into an office. And when you change up the airflow in a home, you also have to change duct size. This used to have an 8-inch duct to it, which would be way too much air for this little room. So what we've done is we've taken that 8-inch duct out. We're adding a little 6-inch just to temper this room. We're going to move that 8-inch duct over into the office area, point it towards the outside wall so we can heat and cool that outside wall. That way the airflow in the house is changed. We can keep that room nice and comfortable so we can pay for this remodel.
There you go.
And we can keep this tempered too so they don't walk in here and be a sweat box.
Well, and you know, a lot of times people just don't think about the fact that the duct sizes change with the size of the rooms. You know, sometimes people think bigger is better, and you can't balance the system out and have an even temperatured house if you do that.
Exactly, because what happens is you can dump too much air in one room, get not enough in another, and then all of a sudden you have hot and cold spots in the house.
Right.
I walk into this room, it's nice and comfortable at 72 degrees, but I walk across the house in another room and it's 76. Well, that's because I've dumped too much air on this side, not enough here. We've got to be able to size that ductwork and have a way of controlling the airflow. So while we were doing this upstairs, where the air conditioning unit is, they have a thing called a plenum where the ductwork attached to. We've put dampers in there, balancing dampers. You can open and close those, and actually even with the different size ducts going, you can actually adjust the airflow, so I can even change the airflow for each individual duct going to each room if there's too much or too little going into some rooms.
And that's just a key part of making a house comfortable.
Exactly, something that nobody thinks about because nobody ever sees it. They just want to walk in, it be warm or it be cool, and then be comfortable.
And that's why you got to do load calculations. If you're putting in a new AC system and you haven't had load calculations done and verify ductwork size and airflows, that system's not going to be right. All right, Glenn, this area here, you know, this was the old office. This wall's been added, that wall's coming out, and they're extending the laundry room, so that probably needs a little bit more duct work going into it. But we had a big duct coming into here before, and it was opened up into the main room, which it's still it. Well, actually it wasn't. This was a separate room before. Now it's opened up to the main room. What do we got to do with the ducts here?
So what we've done is we've taken the duct, they've made this room smaller by about 4 foot.
Right.
So we took that ductwork and moved it over here. As you can see, we put it up with boot rails just to hold it in place while they get ready to sheetrock and get everything else done. Again, we're pointing it towards the outside wall because we have windows that were put in.
Right.
So now we're going to heat and cool these, and this will actually get drawn back and help cool this other room and heat this other room.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that if you'll keep the outside walls cool, the middle will take care of itself.
Exactly, exactly. You don't need as much air in the middle of the house as you do on your outside walls. Now, in the laundry room, we're not sure exactly how we're going to proceed with that one because we're going to try to see what's going on with the original ductwork first, and then see if we need to make any changes or maybe add a larger duct to that. Okay. It's just going to be, because they've made the room 4 foot bigger, we're not sure how that dynamic's going to change.
Sure.
So
Okay.
Until we find out exactly, we may have to make some small modification, but nothing big.
I hear the furnace going right now. Do we have air coming into these ducts yet? Because we could use a little heat in here.
Yes, sir. It feels like it's starting to come out now.
Good.
I think we'll stay right here.
Yeah.
Here's some stuff you need to know.
You know, in some cases, when you're doing foundation repair, you'll have a patio, and patios are typically not part of the home's foundation. 4-inch concrete, unless there's beams in it, doesn't span very well. And so you'll tend to get sags. And we get questions all the time about building a room on top of a patio. Well, I got this great patio out here. Can't I just put another 12 by 16 addition on the house? Absolutely not. 4-inch concrete cannot be leveled. If you try to pick it up, it just sags and breaks, and you're going to be in worse shape than before you started. So if you're getting ready to do an addition or something, make sure you put in a new foundation. It has grade beams around the outside and cross beams to stiffen it up. That's what makes a repairable slab. All right, Glenn, we talk a lot of times on the show about balancing out the ductwork on an air conditioning system to get rid of hot and cold spots. You got a damper here.
Yes,
and
sir.
this is one of the things I tell people all the time that they need to be getting put into their ductwork in order to balance it out properly.
Yes, sir.
Show us what it is and how it works.
All right, so this is a balancing damper. Your ductwork attaches to this, and this attaches to your heating and air conditioning unit up in the attic. And what we can do is we can open and close this to adjust the amount of air that's going into that duct. So if I have a room in the house, let's say that was getting way too much air, and another room that wasn't getting enough, I can go to the one that has too much air, close this down and reduce the amount of air going to it. And then of course, the one that I have too little air going to, I can open it all the way up and try and get more air pushed that way.
Right.
So as I'm closing this one down, I'm forcing air to other areas of the home. That way I can balance the airflow out in the home.
All right, Glenn, we're up in the attic. This is the plenum that we always talk about. So
Yes, sir.
show it to us.
All right, this is your supply air plenum. This one is where your air comes from your heating and your air conditioning unit to be put into your ductwork that comes out to your house.
Okay,
Now we talked earlier about dampers.
right?
These are the flags I was talking about, the handle to the dampers, and I can open and close this to modify or to reduce or increase the amount of air going through each duct.
Right.
Now this that you see, this gray stuff on here, that's mastic,
Better known as Pookie.
better known as Pookie, yes. And we use this to seal the system because we don't want to heat and cool the attic.
Right. And you know, a lot of times people don't realize, but some of the old ductwork, they were losing 20% of their air to leaks in the ductwork. That's really running up electric bills.
That's really running it up, and what they also don't realize is if you don't do this on the return air side where it's
Right.
sucking the air in,
Yeah.
you're getting this nice installation and dust and everything else into your system, which runs your electric bill up even more when it gets dirty.
And it runs that dust out into the house as well.
Yeah, so now Mama's not happy.
Yep.
Here's some stuff you need to know.
Hey, my name's John Jones, and today we're going to show you how to trim a door and get it installed. So first, we're going to start with our door laying flat on the sawhorses, and then we're going to measure from the bottom of the door to the top of the door so that we can get our trim and get our trim measured and cut properly. So we'll start at the bottom, and then we have, if you look, there's a notch right there. So we're at 81¼ is what we're going to cut our trim. And so we'll get the side pieces cut, and then once we get the side pieces cut and nailed on, we'll measure for our top trim and get it put on. So next we're gonna go ahead and put the door casing on the door while it's laying flat. It's a little bit easier that way, so whenever we go to install the door, one side's already done, and it'll help us actually make it for an easier install. So first we're going to take the trim, and we have, once again, you have the line. So we're gonna start at the top of the door, and we're going to line it up right on that line and match it up with the line on the top. So whenever we shoot this in, we want to make sure that we shoot the nail straight in so that it doesn't shoot out the side of the door. And we'll nail the trim on all the way down. Making sure that we stay on the line all the way down that's on the jamb. Do the next side. Once again, starting at the top of the door. Okay, next we'll get the top piece or the header cut. And the reason why we're doing that now is because we want to make sure that we have a good accurate measurement so our joints here on our angles are good and tight. So when I measure this, we're 24.5 inches. I like to burn an inch off of my tape measure to get a more accurate cut. So we'll hold on 25.5 and mark 1 inch. All right, so next we're gonna make sure that everything fits and lines up the way it should. And then first on this, we're gonna go ahead and shoot the bottom corner. I'll say it's top corner here. Okay, and then what I like to do, just to make sure that our door here, our trim is nice and flush, is I like to line it up now and shoot it in from the top. We're nice and flush here so that we don't have an overlap or the trim hanging over. And then coming over here, shoot the next corner. And same thing, shoot it from the top. And then go ahead and nail off the header. Okay, now we're ready to go set the door in place. All right, so we'll get the door set into the opening here. The first thing we're gonna do is make sure everything's checked for level. Level up our hinges here. The door needs to come up just a little bit though, so that the top of our reveal will match all the way across. All right, and then, now that we have our trim on already, it makes it a little bit easier for us to actually install the door once we get plumbed up, because we can shoot the trim to the wall. Once we got our reveal right and the door is level, we're going to get a reveal across top. We want to make sure that the reveal across or down the door is the same too. So we want to watch that as we nail the door off. And there you go. Now your door's installed.
Well, we got the AC installed. We got the foundation stabilized. We're ready to move on the stuff that really starts making the house look like you're making progress, drywall. Now, drywall goes in real quick, makes it look like you did a lot of work. It's really a simple process. Let's get started. All right, you're gonna see these professional drywall guys, they are fast. They're gonna move through and cut and all this kind of stuff, but you know, the do-it-yourselfer, you're not typically gonna take the tape measure, put your knife on and follow it and cut it. It's just not, it's something you get from practice. So typically what you're gonna do is mark where you need it, and I'm gonna give you just a quick rundown here. We're gonna cut this 6 inches. Mark it with a pencil. And you know, the nice thing about drywall, you don't have to be exact on it. You can retrim it, you can float it, you can do a lot of stuff to cover up mistakes. But just mark it with a pencil and then use your knife to follow your pencil line. You're not going to be near as fast as the guy doing it professionally, but guess what? You're going to get the job done, and you're going to like what you did. Once you've scarred it, you snap it, reach underneath with your knife, piece is cut. It is that simple. And it doesn't matter if you're doing a small piece or a big 4x8 sheet. It's that simple. Just keep in mind, sheetrock is cheap and it's easy to redo.
Next week on Texas Home Improvement.
Okay, we got our drywall going in. After that's going to come tape, float, texturing, and all that stuff. You've heard me say this a lot of times on the radio. This is not a project you want to do if you're not real happy in your marriage, because this now is going to be the part where everybody starts saying, okay, we're going to be finished. It's time to get back in the house. We're now hitting the slow part of the project. It's the key part. It's the part you see, but it's also the slow part. It's the details of making it look right. That's what we're working on now. Hey, got a question during the week? Go to our website, thipro.com, and click on the Ask Jim button. If you're looking for a great contractor, one that'll treat you fair and get the job done right, go to thipro.com and take a look at the contractors in your area that I've already checked out. Don't forget to listen to Texas Home Improvement every Saturday and Sunday right here in Houston on News Talk 740 KTRH. Now we know what the hell.
There's a blooper reel.
All right.
Balancing the emperor.
Yeah. What is the beam issue where you keep telling me about?
Well, one, I hate these beams.
No, not that. All right. Once a pile is different drip. I'll try that one again. What are we talking about here anyway?
Talking about that air duct. We're in the bar area now.
Okay.
Talk about what you're doing.